Well, the man who was attacked by the tiger, Sheba, in the south of Johannesburg, is now considering taking legal action against the owners of the animal. The victim, William Mokoena, has appointed Zola Majavu to represent him, and we are able to speak now with his legal representative. Advocate Majavu, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for being on Newzroom Afrika, as always. First things first, how is Mr. Mokoena doing?
Good evening, Tembegile. Good evening to the viewers. And for the record, I do not practice as an advocate. I can confirm my instructions on behalf of Mr. Mokoena. He is stable now. I spoke to him a few minutes before we came on air. He has been receiving satisfactory at this very stage medical attention. He's in high spirits. The doctors have indicated that they would keep him there for at least 2 weeks because he's unable to walk at all. And as soon as he is discharged, then I'll be able to consult meaningfully with him, because the priority now is to get him the medical attention that he needed. I can also confirm that the nature of the instructions are twofold. Firstly, to do a watching brief, which is aimed at ensuring that the criminal investigation that has been opened at Leprefield SAPS is handled in accordance with applicable prescripts, so that is the criminal side of things, which we hopefully hope that might lead to the prosecution of the owner and other identifiable stakeholders from a legal point of view. The second leg to my instruction is obviously to consider a legal suit which is aimed at recovering monetary damages for the pain and suffering and other related heads of damages. It's not good enough for the mayor and the owner, rather the owner to say, my fence was cut. There's a higher duty placed on him which is concomitant with the ferociousness of the animals that he keeps. Similarly, it's not good enough for the mayor to say they're going to have a conversation, because they too have a duty to promulgate the necessary bylaws and enforce them. But I do not want to take away anything from the mayor. I appreciate the spirit in which he made a contribution, but those are potential defendants that we may add into this lawsuit. And there may well be other service providers associated with that particular enclosure. And there's an overriding question. The question is, how did it happen that this particular owner were allowed to keep such ferocious animals without proper regulation? It may well be that a separate investigation might have to be underway to make sure that this type of conduct is not allowed, because it's too late. Someone has been ferocious, seriously attacked, and they are within their rights to litigate against those who owed them a duty of care and they failed in such duty.
And I know that you and your client, Mr. William Mokoena, will speak in more detail once he's out of hospital. But at this early stage, given that this tiger was being kept in Walkerville by someone, what would be, to your mind, legally, the range of charges that could be brought against the owners?
Look, when we say charges, we must be linguistically careful. Charges connote a criminal process, which is within the ambit of the NPA. It stems from negligence. It also could stem from failure to abide by certain bylaws at the municipal level. But that is the NPA and the police side of things. Mine is just to make sure that they do not sleep on the job, in the manner of speak. But charges, insofar as you are talking about recovery for damages on behalf of my clients, obviously the owners have a duty. If the owner had employed maybe a security company, that security company has a duty. If the owner had employed people to render specific services which were aimed at mitigating against such unnecessary escapes which were foreseeable, those people can potentially be added. How much we're looking at, it's early days, but it will be informed by the extent of the injuries, whether or not he's gained gainful employment, and whether or not post this incident would he be able to continue the gainful employment that he enjoyed, and loss of amenities of life. So it could potentially be a big claim, but most importantly, is to sound a warning shot to those who take it upon themselves to breed and hold these dangerous animals. Pit bulls, pythons, tigers, lions, the list is endless, because the legal duty is the same. If you are a keeper of an animal and you keep it out of its natural habitat, the law expects of you to take concomitant measures to mitigate against unforeseen incidents of escapes. But in this instance, it is reasonably foreseeable that in that environment, with a fence that can easily be cut, that such an animal can escape. It is also foreseeable that if it escapes and is hungry, it's going to prey on animals, dogs, other pets, or human beings. So a human life could easily have been lost here. So we can't have a wishy-washy conversation about we must tighten our bylaws and this and that. This is not an incident that has happened now. My client told me that this particular tiger escaped on Thursday, from what he was told by the employees of this particular person who is known to us, who's known to the police, who's known in the neighborhood. He was only injured on Saturday. God knows what could have happened between Thursday and Saturday. It may well be that someone out there is dead or injured. We don't know. He was likely to escape.
Interesting that you say that, because at this point, many of us were under the impression that, in fact, this tiger was able to escape from that hole cut in the fence only over the weekend.
Well, as a lawyer, I'm a creation of my client's instruction. He specifically says he has engaged with the employees at that particular farm, and everybody in that neighborhood knows that that particular person is a breeder of these animals. And it's not the first time, according to him, that they have escaped. He also says that when the alarm was raised on Friday, not much effort was put by the owner to try and have a search party going or to get patrollers in the neighborhood to do whatever is necessary. And this is what he says, which may or may not be true. But lo and behold, on Saturday evening at around 9 o'clock, he was then attacked. After his attack, the very same tiger, or I hope that is the same tiger, then went and attacked a dog and some pigs in the neighborhood. That talks to the ferociousness of this. We don't know how hungry it was, how frightened it might have been if it finds itself in an unfamiliar territory. And he specifically says he's worried that where he was attacked, it is the same foot paiki, and that is the language he used, that school-going children use to go to school, back and forth. Now, you can imagine if this were to be a situation where this tiger encountered a 6-year-old or a 10-year-old, the consequences are too ghastly to contemplate, which raises the bar on the duty of care by those who keep this thing living among ordinary civilians.
Right. And
I have no difficulty with people doing whatever they have, as long as they comply with the bylaws. But then the duty of care is heightened in proportion to the ferociousness of the animal.
And you mentioned the ferociousness of the animal. I was just looking at an interview that your client, Mr. Mokoena, actually gave 2 Times Live, where he explains what happened. And just to give our viewers a sense who haven't seen it, he talks about how he basically felt something push him to the ground. Before he knew it, he says the animal was basically going or trying to go for his neck. He tried to kick, but its legs were basically had pinned him to the ground, right? Which speaks to just the level of danger that he was under. I want to go back then to your role in the matter. For those of us who aren't lawyers, let's revisit what a watch brief is and how you will then go about acting on that while we are especially in this very early stage of the investigations into what exactly happened.
So watching brief is exactly that. I have to watch over those whose legal mandate it is to investigate crime and prosecute crime. My role is very limited. What I am able to do actively and proactively is to institute a legal suit on behalf of my client against whomsoever owed them a duty of care and they failed to execute that duty. So to the extent that there's a criminal case open, it's not my business or my job to investigate. But obviously, as and when I come across evidential material that I believe is relevant, I pass it on to the police, who will then pass it on to the prosecuting authority, who will then make of it whatever they wish to make independently. That's on the one side. If you don't do that, there is a tendency in this country that our poor people who don't have the financial wherewithal or any other form of resources, their cases are not properly investigated and they may fall by the wayside. For example, it may well be that a statement may be so poorly taken that a prosecutor acting independently, having read the docket, may come to the view that there is no case to prosecute or the prospects of a successful prosecution are good and thereby decline to prosecute. Whereas if they know that there is someone watching over this, they may do a little bit more. And I'm not suggesting that generally the police and the prosecutors are bad. I've had occasion to work with very decent and dedicated policemen and women, very dedicated prosecutors, male and female, regardless of the race. But the point is to make sure that the fact that you happen to be belonging to the lower class and you are not properly resourced, you should not feel that the laws of this country can protect you. And that is why I jump at this kind of cases with no expectation of any financial benefit. Someone pays my fees, well and good. If not, my quest for justice still remains the same. And that is why I invite all other professionals to assist wherever they can. From doctors, I was able to be assisted by a friend of mine who's a doctor who made the necessary calls, and this guy was able to get a bed because since his admission, he was battling to get a bed in a government hospital, not because the government hospitals are bad, but they're simply under-resourced. But through medical and like-minded friends, they were able to expedite him and give him the necessary medical attention, for which we are grateful. And that is what must happen across the board. Not your station in society should determine how well your rights can be protected. I think that sucks, and we have a duty to guard against that. Equality. But we don't want to preempt the investigation. It's still early days. We should all be equal before the law. We have the same right of dignity that is constitutional entrenched. And we, as a legal smiths, must make sure that their rights are protected. We have a legal duty to do so, regardless of the race, creed, and color, and your station in society.
Zola Majavu, good to speak to you, sir. Thank you for your time tonight.